Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. We're going to get right into this tea because I've got several things working at the same time here. I've got water that I've just boiled. When you join us for a tea tasting, we often talk about the water temperature because that's an aspect of how tea is prepared. And we have a pu'er today, and we need to talk a little bit about pu'ers, especially in a brick form like this one is. This is a 5-year aged pu'er tea. And so we need to talk a little bit about, I wanted to show this to you. This tea was actually harvested in 2003, but was not pressed into a brick form until 2008. So it's considered aged 5 years in that sense, in that time period. Now, when you open up a brick like this one is, I want to be able to show this off because this is something that you may or may not have seen before. You get a nice pressed brick like so, and when you do this, one of the things that you want to do when you take this tea is, you could just try to get the corner here and work that off and break that off, but there's less pizzazz in that. There's less that to appreciate in that, and that people would, most of your pu'er aficionados will say, cut at it this way, so that you can preserve the wholeness of the leaf as much as possible. So I've got my basic pocket knife here, and I mean there are some pu'er knives which are basically much similar to a letter opener, but this one works just fine for me. And so what you're going to see me doing is, I've already started it in previous tastings, off-camera tastings, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my knife ever so carefully and just wedge it down in between the layers here to loosen those up. And you see I'm kind of giving a rocking motion to try to gently pull it apart into kind of layers. Now, because we're using fairly small guy one here, we don't need a whole lot. So actually, this little piece right here is probably just fine. And actually, it's still a pretty solid piece, and you can still see a lot of the leaves are still whole and squiggled around in there. So we'll put that right in there. Pu'er teas can get kind of crumbly when you do this, and I do try to use or protect and maintain as many of those little crumbles as I can in case I want to use them for a steeping or something later. I'm going to wrap this up so we can just kind of get it out of the way for a while and set it over to the side for a moment. Actually set it right over here. Because the next thing we do, we want to get this water is still, while it still has plenty of temperature on it, we're going to give this tea a rinse. And I especially suggest this for, a lot of people do this for all teas, but I especially suggest a rinse for a pu'er. And you just want enough to kind of cover the top of that little brick piece of tea that we got, swirl it around a little bit, and then, well, I'm going to lid that so I can strain it off better. And there we are. I'm going to strain that off like so. Actually, my opening got a little too small there, so get that off quickly. Now we're ready to pour this on and steep it for a longer period. And then we can talk a little bit more about this tea and introduce it. So that's a good amount right there. Lid that. Get this water out of the way. Kind of keep this over to the side because I don't want any water to get on my cake or the wrapping of the cake either. So there we go. Let that kind of reset there. All right, that's good. Now this tea is from China Kung Fu Tea Art Store, and that's a store that's currently on eBay. This is called their LaoTongZhi5yShuPu, kind of old comrade is the rough translation. A 5-year. Now there are sheng pu'ers, which are raw, which haven't gone through the aging process. They shu, which is what this is, a shu. If you're from northern China, I've heard Taiwanese people say shou. So shu, shou, it means an aged pu'er. Okay, again, this was from 2003. This brick here is about 250 grams, and this one is actually $8. Now, the advantage of a pu'er like this is that it can appreciate in value, like a wine, because there's a bacterial process, just like with yogurts, just like with wines. There's a process of this. This is aging. This is maturing, and that you'll find that seasons of the moist summers or the dry winters. This process of aging, of moisture and humidity and airflow will affect how this tea ages. It can draw out or enhance flavors or aspects of the tea. As we said, 250 grams, $7.99. Package does tell you the production date or the harvest date and the production date. Those are printed on there for your reference as well. And then as we were looking at this tea, let's go ahead and bring that back. Just kind of talk about pu'ers. A lot of pu'ers are going to have a kind of musty, earthy type smell, a woody type smell, and that's what you're probably going to get from this one as well. Again, but this one is fainter. It's not as, because this one is this one I detect is because it may not have been aged as much as some of the others that we've tasted, or at least it hasn't gone through as much of the humidity change as some others. This one doesn't have a very strong bit of a mushroom smell, but a dried mushroom type smell, but not significant, not as strong as some of the others that we tasted. Also, you can actually see the shapes of the leaves, and you're getting that deep, rich seal brown, that kind of dark chocolate brown, but you're also getting some lighter yellow kind of golds in here as well. So you're getting a range of colors, both front and back here. Okay. The leaves, I would say, look pretty small, look pretty tender or narrow. They're not. Pu'ers are often made with a thicker, fuller size leaf, but this one seems to be a bit smaller, and so we want to put in our best effort to preserve this tea so that it lasts. You probably get more. If you buy an $8 brick, you could take care of this tea and turn it into a much more valuable tea. Okay, so we'll set that over to the side. We should have had enough time now to get a tea here that's steeped well. Pu'ers tend to be a lot of inkier, darker type of colors, and that's what we're expecting from this one as well. Yeah. So don't be surprised when this one's a darker color. If you don't like this level of intensity, of course you can shorten your steep time and get something lower, get something lighter in color, get something subtler in taste as well. But this one's a pretty rich, dark color. That's because we gave this one a longer steep time. Okay. So we'll set that aside. Talk about this wet leaf for a little bit. That's quite nice. I mean, it's got that earthy type of dry mushroom, and yet there's this cocoa type creaminess smell coming off this. I mean, it's like it's bordering on a hot chocolate type of smell. There is a bit of a chocolate type creaminess to this. Okay, cocoa butter type aspect. And yeah, if you look at these leaves, they have loosened up, but again, you look like you're getting portions of leaves. It's hard to really tell that you're getting anything like a solid leaf. Let me pull some of these out just to kind of let's see. Yeah, section of a leaf here hasn't really fully unfurled. One of the beauties of a pu'er is you're going to get lots. You can get lots of steepings out of this, especially with a Gaiwan style like this. You don't want to just use this once and discard your leaf. That's for sure. Okay, so little bits, little pieces. The colors become basically uniform. You know, the liquor tended to make everything that it's touched about the same color. And small size, let's say, half an inch or so, 3/4 of an inch at most, as far as your leaf, your size there. It's hard to tell leaf size when it's all pressed together in a dry cake like that. So let us move to the actual tasting here of the liquor here. Again, you're seeing that's a dark, rich color. That is like soda, soda type color coming off of there. But there's a bit of a woodiness. There's a bit of a again, that kind of chocolate, dark chocolate type smell coming off. And you feel that texture. That's one of the things that hits you, is that texture there that just gives you gives a coating to the mouth. It gives it a bit of a fuzzy feel, which I associate, especially with other teas, as a bit of astringency. So this one does have a bit of a drying sensation, but and that's on the tip of the tongue, because the rest of the tongue, it's quite watery. It's quite it's almost creamy. It's got a sweet, cooling aftertaste aspect to it. So in the flavors or the aromas itself, you do have that kind of chocolatey taste. You do have a bit of a kind of a mushroom aspect to it. A little bit of a woody type firewood aspect as well. But it's the texture that really gives it that smoothness, gives it that chocolatey type feel as well. It's not the smoothest I've tasted. It does drop off. It does, even as thick as and as hearty as this one is. I've had others that this one tapers off to a little bit of a watery aftertaste faster than some of the others that we've encountered and that we've tasted here at Walker Tea Review. So that's why we gave this tea. We gave this one a 90. We could have seen a bit of a smoother aftertaste, and that's something that we could look for as this develops in age. Good aroma profile, good flavor profile, not overly musty, mushroomy, wet basement aspect. Good kind of almost a chocolatey type mouth feel. Good dark chocolate type of coating in the mouth there as well. That sweet and cooling aspect in the aftertaste is also something that's quite rewarding. So when you look at this tea, definitely something, especially if you're considering becoming like a pu'er collector, check this one out. See if this is something you want to buy and hold on to for a while and watch it age and mature and become more nuanced. Again, this was from Chinese Kung Fu Tea Art Store. This is their LaoTongZhi 5-year Chun Shu Pu'er. And we tasted it here together here at Walker Tea Review.